They painted Meghan Markle's life like some perfect fairy tale, didn't they? From the polished halls of high school to the glittering stages of Hollywood and finally into the gilded cage of royalty. But Samantha Markle, her estranged sister, just ripped that glossy page apart with one revelation that has left people stunned. Meghan wasn't just an ambitious teen heading toward college and Hollywood fame. According to Samantha, Meghan was already a wife. And even more shocking, already a mother. Yes, you heard that right. Long before the polished photos with Trevor Engelson, long before the fairy tale royal wedding with Prince Harry, Meghan allegedly had a marriage in 1995. Sealed away, hidden, erased from public view. Let's rewind. June 1994. Meghan graduates from Immaculate Heart High School in Los Angeles. Everyone else is buzzing about summer trips, freedom, college applications. Meghan's official story? She took a gap year before enrolling at Northwestern University in the fall of 1995. She told the world it was for travel, for discovery, for finding herself. But here's the catch. No one can find a trace of it. No pictures abroad, no host families, no exchange programs, just a suspicious empty hole in her timeline. And that empty hole? It lines up exactly with what Samantha Markle claims. That instead of backpacking across Europe or soul-searching in Asia, Meghan was in Las Vegas. Not to party, not to sightsee, but to walk down the aisle. Picture it. Summer of 1994. An 18-year-old Meghan stepping into a tiny off-strip chapel in Vegas. No cameras, no classmates. Just her, young and nervous, standing beside Joe Giuliano, a teenage friend with Chicago roots and a family that valued privacy above everything else. Two witnesses, a quick ceremony, and just like that, Meghan Markle at 18 is legally married. But here's where it gets even messier. Months later, the record of that wedding, gone, vanished, filed for annulment, and immediately sealed. Unlike thousands of Vegas marriages that stay on public file forever, Meghan's was buried under lock and key. Clark County officials won't confirm, won't deny. Why would a simple teenage mistake need to be erased so thoroughly? And this is where the Giuliano family enters the picture. Traditional, tight-knit Italian-American roots in Chicago. They believed in family, loyalty, early marriage, and above all, keeping things quiet. They weren't chasing red carpets like Meghan. They valued home, children, privacy, two worlds colliding. Then came the turning point. Just months into this secret marriage, Meghan reportedly discovered she was pregnant. 18 years old, barely out of high school, the kind of moment that shakes your entire world. And according to whispers, in mid-1995, a baby girl was born. But instead of raising the child herself, Meghan allegedly struck a deal. The Giuliano family stepped in. They would raise the baby as their own. No adoption papers, no custody fights, no public record tying Meghan to the child. On paper, that little girl didn't exist. But inside the Giuliano home, she was very real. And the annulment? It wasn't just about erasing a teenage marriage. It was about erasing that whole chapter of Meghan's life. The documents were sealed tight. The silence was absolute. The Giulianos took the baby. Meghan took her freedom, and both sides agreed. This never happened. Neighbors later recalled seeing a baby girl around the Giuliano home, always introduced as a relative's child, never once tied to Meghan, never appearing in school announcements or family records. She existed, but in the shadows. One haunting whisper summed it up. She was Meghan's before she was ours. That child grew up, ordinary on the outside, extraordinary on the inside, living a life detached from Meghan's glamorous path. Meanwhile, Meghan packed her bags for Northwestern University, ready to reinvent herself. By fall of 1995, Meghan's new chapter began. She dove into theater, joined new circles, and crafted the narrative of an ambitious, hardworking student with her eyes on Hollywood. The Giulianos raised the child, and Meghan cut all ties. Joe Giuliano stayed in the little girl's life, but Meghan, she walked away clean. No calls, no visits, nothing. That annulment wasn't just legal paperwork, it was her reset button. And today, somewhere in Chicago, a woman in her late 20s lives her life quietly, unaware of the storm that brews around her name. People who have seen her whisper about the resemblance, the same eyes, the same bone structure as Meghan. But she's never been photographed with Meghan, never acknowledged, officially invisible, but undeniably connected. So here we are, decades later, and the silence is cracking. Samantha Markle didn't just throw shade, she ripped the curtain wide open. For years, Meghan built her image as the woman who reinvented herself. The girl who discovered herself on a gap year, who walked into Northwestern polished and ready for success, who chased Hollywood with grit, who walked down the aisle with Trevor Engelson in 2011 as if it were her first trip to the altar. And yet, Samantha says that wasn't the beginning at all. That was already chapter 2. The haunting questions practically scream from the shadows. If it was just youthful regret, why were the annulment papers sealed so aggressively? If there was no baby, why did the Giuliano family suddenly raise a child who by all accounts looked exactly like Meghan? And most chilling of all, what happens if that daughter decides to step forward one day? Because think about it, Meghan Markle has lived for 3 decades as though that chapter never existed. Her rise has been carefully choreographed. The humanitarian speeches, the Hollywood appearances, the royal titles, the Netflix deals, reveals, every step has been framed as a story of empowerment, struggle, triumph. But if Samantha's revelation is true, then under all that polish lies a story of secrecy, choices, and heartbreak. Imagine the scene back then. Meghan, 18, torn between the world she dreamed of, college, acting, visibility, and the world suddenly in front of her, a husband, a child, a family demanding silence. It was the ultimate fork in the road. And Meghan, she chose reinvention. She chose herself. But that choice came with a cost. Silence about a daughter, erasure of a marriage, a secret buried deep enough to last decades. And now, whispers are growing louder. People claim a young woman in Chicago, now in her late 20s, mirrors Meghan so closely it's uncanny. Same jawline, same sharp eyes, she blends into ordinary life, work, family gatherings, errands, but those who know her can't help but see the resemblance. To them, it's undeniable. She's Meghan's chapter 1, the chapter Meghan has fought to erase. Even more unsettling, that daughter may not even know the full truth. She may have grown up believing she belonged only to the Giulianos, never realizing her mother was the woman splashed across magazine covers, shaking hands with world leaders and standing beside a prince. If she ever finds out, if she ever steps into the light, what then? The irony is brutal. Meghan has spent her adult life talking about her voice, her truth, her freedom. Yet the loudest silence in her story might just come from the secret she's never spoken of. Let's not forget the other players here. Joe Giuliano. Unlike Meghan, he didn't vanish from the child's life. He stayed, he visited, he remained connected. But Meghan, her cutoff was clean, cold, absolute. For her, it was as though 1994 to 1995 had never happened. By the time she hit Northwestern, she was already rewriting history, crafting the story she wanted the world to know. And maybe that's why Samantha's words sting so much. Because this isn't some random internet rumor. This isn't fan fiction whipped up on gossip blogs. This story is rooted in sealed records, whispered by family members, and echoed in the life of a young woman who exists just outside the spotlight. Now picture the impact if this truth fully breaks. Imagine the headlines. Meghan Markle, a duchess who has spent years controlling her narrative, suddenly forced to answer for a secret marriage and a hidden child. How would the public react? How would the royals react? How would Harry react? Because here's the thing, people can forgive mistakes. Teenage choices, quick Vegas marriages, they happen all the time. But what people won't forgive so easily, secrecy, cover-ups, a child hidden away. That's not just a mistake, that's a calculated decision. And decisions like that don't vanish, no matter how many years pass. The silence around this story has held for nearly 3 decades. But silence, as Samantha reminds us, doesn't last forever. It cracks, it slips, and when it breaks, it often does so explosively. Meghan may have thought she hit the reset button with that annulment, but what she buried is clawing its way back up. So we circle back to those chilling questions. If it was just a teenage mistake, why erase it so completely? If no child existed, why was a baby raised in the Giuliano household, always whispered about, but never publicly named? And most of all, what happens if that daughter, the woman Meghan left behind, steps forward and tells her story? That day could change everything. Meghan's carefully built image of the underdog turned duchess, the advocate for women, the voice of the voiceless, would suddenly have to face the one voice she's kept silent for 30 years. Samantha may have opened Pandora's box, but the real storm is yet to come, because secrets this heavy don't stay buried forever. And when the silence finally shatters, the world won't just see Meghan Markle, the duchess, the actress, the humanitarian. They'll see Meghan Markle, the woman with a past she fought to erase, and a daughter who might one day decide not to stay erased at all.